Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Ball Live with Pat Leonard here on YouTube. The channel is PL on NFL. That's the Talking Ball with Pat Leonard podcast, brought to you by MyBookie, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, and Sal Loretta for Men. We're going to start with my MyBookie big bet of the day, brought to you by MyBookie, where you're going to go and use the code Leonard for some welcome bonuses, but more importantly, access to all of the best in sports books that it has to offer, from WWE. Hopefully you bet on SummerSlam, to UFC, NFL, Major League Baseball right now, the Phillies scoring bunches of runs and hitting a bunch of homers right now, and much, much more. MyBookie has tons of unique features like the money bag, the partner picks, daily bet boost. You're not going to find a better place to find one-stop shopping for sportsbook as well as the casino at MyBookie. And this is my MyBookie big bet of the day. My big bet of the day is that the Giants have more ball hawks in the secondary than they had last season. Now, hard not to, given how difficult it was for the Giants to force a takeaway and a turnover through the first half of last season. But Javon Holland's second interception and really his second pick six of the early summer, just 10 days into training camp, just a good sign that the emphasis that defensive coordinator Shane Bowen is applying, and with the turnover chest, with the motivation of the defense to kind of rally behind a common goal and to treat themselves as an offense to complement a Giants offense that, as we'll get to in a minute, has some firepower, but still seems lacking in many areas, namely the ability to provide obvious improvement in areas that it was not strong on a year ago. But on the defensive side, listen, they always talk about complementary football, but really when they say that, what they mean is the defense sometimes is driving the bus, running the show. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're winning games, if that's how your team is built. You need offense to score eventually to win in this modern NFL, especially in the playoffs. But when you look at the defense and you look at Adebo, both of his interceptions, they were different plays, but they were both earned by him flying to the ball and anticipating the play. The first was last week. Russell Wilson tried to fit in a slant to Malik Neighbors. Drew Phillips, who was blitzing from the slot, got his hand on that ball, and Javon Holland leapt into the air, high-pointed the ball, and took it back down the left sideline for a quick 6 points with the offense backed up in that situation. And then today on a full field drive for the first team offense and Russell Wilson, Wan'Dale Robinson, who had a drop already in the drive, kind of turning out to the right side outside the hash marks. The ball from Wilson just slightly past Wan'Dale Robinson's hands. Javon Holland right there at the point of attack. But then it was the difference between being there and watching the play and being there and making the play. And Holland gets there and then makes a play on the ball with an eye on taking it back for 6 points. Russell Wilson actually chased him as best he could down the whole sideline with Brian Burns chasing, trying to block. I believe it was Burns. Now, on the flip side, you don't want to see Russell Wilson turning the ball over so much. 5 interceptions in 10 days. Holland with 2. Dane Belton with 1 that would have been a pick 6 in the game in the red zone. Tyler Nubin with 1 at the end of a 2-minute drive. And Drew Phillips with 1 as well. So a little too much in the turnover department from Wilson. A little too many things outside of Malik Neighbors, who looks fantastic, that leave wanting more on the offensive side of the ball. But brought to you by MyBookie, the MyBookie bet of the day is that there are some more ball hawks in the secondary, leading with safety Javon Holland. Now, Paulson Adebo, obviously, he came in last year from New Orleans to the Giants this season with the interceptions. Javon Holland with no picks last year for the Miami Dolphins. But, of course, that big highlight of him returning it full field for the touchdown on that Black Friday game against the Jets, just a small example of what Holland can do with the ball in his hands, and the fact that he does have a nose for the end zone and is an athlete. Like, he's a safety, he's a defensive player, but he is an athlete once the ball is in his hands. And you just hope that the money spent on Adebo and Holland, like, listen, these are two players who things are going to go well and some things are not going to go well. Adebo's not going to completely shut down a side of the field, and Holland isn't going to be all world. You can't throw the ball deep on the Giants. But these are two guys who have made plays on the ball in their career. They've been in the league long enough to be experienced. They've seen a lot. They know what's coming. And at the very least, even if you lose those battles as a corner, as a safety, as a DB, the point is bouncing back the next play and winning, and hopefully turning the ball over and giving it to your offense, if not scoring yourself. Like Deonte Banks, the youngster who's trying to bounce back, like let's say he bounces back in year 3. That's not going to look like playing perfect football. He's still going to get beaten. What it has to look like, though, is getting beaten one play and then stepping back up the next play and having a pass breakup, or stepping in the next play, anticipating, reading, reacting, stepping up, picking off the ball, handing it back to the offense. Vibes, right? Like you want a sense of resilience from the secondary as a whole and from individual players, especially some of the young guys. So hopefully this emphasis on the turnovers from Bowen, the turnover chest, like Bobby Okereke actually said the other day, that this is an emphasis that the players are kind of rallying behind, that it is something that excites them. And really, as he put it, like whatever motivates you, So if it works for the group, it works for the group. If it doesn't, you try somebody else, right? So I like the fact, like, listen, I don't love that the offense seems to be struggling. I don't love the injuries starting to pile up as they tend to in camp, but the Giants have had a problem with this year in and year out, and you especially don't want it to happen to top players. And so the offense is concerning, but the interceptions and the fact that the Giants now have some players back there who are making plays on the ball is very, very exciting. Welcome to the chat, everybody. For those of you returning, for those of you who are new, this is Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard. I am the New York Daily News NFL columnist and Giants beat writer. I cover the entire NFL, but I'm also on the daily beat for the Giants, covering the Giants every day. There at training camp, on the sidelines, in the interviews, in the locker room, once the locker room opens, during the season. And we do these also after every Giants game. And I love those live chats after games because that's a great way to kind of break it down. Right after I come off the field, come out of the locker room with updates, analysis, news. And so we'll break news on here. We'll have analysis. We bat around different ideas, topics, and questions. And I love hearing differing opinions as well. Definitely don't want this ever to become an echo chamber. I want it to be a place where Giants fans feel like they can safely say whatever they want about their team, and where we can intelligently and passionately discuss what is happening with your team, with your favorite team, and how they're doing. Before I go any further, before I get to the comments and questions, a couple of things. Number one, if you have a comment or question that you're waiting on, that you want answered first, you can purchase a super chat or super sticker and have it climb up to the top of the queue. And that will mean I will answer it next or answer it first. So super chats and super stickers, a great way to support the channel. Also, while we're here, please hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button. Those likes while we are live pushes that algorithm out to the Giants fans out there who want more content, who want to talk to someone on the inside, and gets everybody in here for this community that we've helped grow and build thanks to all of you. And please subscribe if you haven't already, because that way you'll get notifications when we're going live. You'll get notifications of our newest podcast episodes. I have one in the works this week going around the NFC East a little bit and talking to some experts in Washington and Dallas about Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin and the Giants' first two opponents, like an early scouting report on what's going on with the Giants' first two opponents. Really, as we know, at least splitting those first two games is imperative for the Giants to get off on the right foot this season. Now, before I go any further, I wanted to mention as well, I ran into Jasmeet, the Giants Singh. You might know him as one of many diehard Giants fans out here. I think he's in our chat at the moment. And I was talking to him at training camp, one of many of you, just like Joey B, who is always out here in East Rutherford, New Jersey, at least a few times, if not more, supporting the team, traveling on the road, and trying to rally everybody together to root for this team through thick and thin. And the Giants Singh, he had shared with me that for the Giants preseason opener on August 9th, that's Saturday, August 9th, 1 p.m. For those of you who aren't going to Buffalo, he will be hosting a Giants kickoff party at 902 Brewing on the rooftop in Jersey City, 1 o'clock Eastern time, free event, August 9th. So that's Giants Bills. If you're not doing anything for the game, you're not going to Buffalo, and you're just planning on sitting at home and watching it on your couch, go out to 902 Brewing. Get out there, get your tickets today. He's the Giant Singh. I'm sure you follow him already on Instagram. So go get your tickets. It'll be a great get together, a great time. I can't commit at this exact moment to definitely being there. I'm not sure whether I'm going to make it, but if I can, I will. So stay tuned for more there. But, I think that'd be a great time, great venue. And I can tell you this, whether or not Talkin Ball is live there from 902 Brewing or not, doing events and being out in the community with all of you and, covering the Giants, being among all of you diehard fans, trying to bring all of my sourcing and information and analysis directly to you guys and make you a part of what I'm doing. This is something I am all about and all in on. So not exactly sure about whether 902 is going to have Talkin Ball live, but we've chatted about it. If it doesn't happen now, it'll happen next time. But just teasing that, go to 902 Brewing, 1 o'clock Eastern, Saturday. That's if you're not going up to Buffalo. Like I said, thank you so much for being here. We have a super chat in the queue. So I'm going to go first to the super chat, and then we will get going. So Welvin checks in with $2. Thank you so much, Welvin. Always appreciate your support. Really appreciate you. All right. Candyman says, hey, Pat, do you think do you think over 5.5 wins this season is good, or am I just getting caught up in the typical preseason hype? Glad to have you back, man. Glad to see you, Candyman. Yeah. I appreciate you understanding the mini sabbatical to refresh, rejuvenate, recharge. So much more coming this season here on the channel. And I love doing this. Just needed to press the reset button. Over 5.5, that stretches it for me. I think it all depends on those first two games. Can they get a split at least? And it depends on Candyman. And this, thanks for leading me into this, but what it depends on for me is the Giants' ability to is to improve in areas on the offense that they needed to improve on from last year. And I know that sounds obvious, but hear me out. Malik Neighbors looks excellent. He looks like a man on a mission. He looks unguardable. Okay. Russell Wilson, when he's throwing some of those deep balls, and especially the ones to Neighbors downfield, is dropping them in the bucket. He still looks like he can make those throws and looks good. But outside of Neighbors looking good, okay, where are the Giants obviously improved on offense? And I would say this to mean Neighbors was good last year. The team won 3 games, right? So Neighbors being really good and tough to defend and having some big stats, that would be nothing new other than him getting into the end zone a little bit more, right? So where are they seeing the improvements elsewhere, right? If Wan'Dale Robinson is the slot, same guy. Darius Slayton on the outside, we know what he is, right? He can be your leading receiver in a victory like he was in Seattle. Solid player, solid veteran, good for the team, good for the offense, good for the room. Okay. Was on the team last year. Now, Jalen Hyatt has potential to unlock some downfield stuff. Cam Scattaboo has potential to help improve the running game, add a bruising element to it that they don't have necessarily, add even more pass catching ability, maybe better pass catching ability out of the backfield. But outside of that, Theo Johnson at tight end, same guy. Chris Manhertz, Daniel Bellinger, they're back. Offensive line looks exactly the same, except maybe Evan Neal at right guard, which, to be honest, looks like it more likely it would be Greg Van Roten if the season started tomorrow. So you're talking about counting on just the quarterback change and possibly Jalen Hyatt unlocking it and possibly Cam Scattaboo adding a little bit more juice to the backfield. There is hope in some of that, but there is nothing grounded in obvious improvement for the offense to, let's say, jump a touchdown per game into the 23, 24 point range from the 16 range, right? And that's why it's hard for me to give you the over and to nod my head yes with you, Candyman. I don't disagree that there are some reasons to be optimistic, including, of course, as we've talked about before, Abdul Carter. You know, if you have Abdul Carter being able to pin his ears back with Burns and Thibodeau and Lawrence on third downs, third and longs, if you can get teams to that, and if you do have some more ball hawks like a Javon Holland back there getting their hands on these passes, then yes, this is a recipe for creating short fields, hopefully with the veteran presence of Wilson, getting more passes into the end zone, and at the very least, not turning the ball over and getting field goals, more points on the board, and eventually finding a way to eke out more wins. But given the strength of their schedule, and given the fact that I don't see obvious dramatic improvement in the offense yet, I would not advertise to go over 5.5. I'm not saying it's impossible that they can do it, but I will not pick them to if I were to pick today. And the last thing I would say is health is everything for sure. So, Andrew Thomas, right? Is he going to be back? That's a huge deal. Jalen Hyatt, is he going to stay healthy? Are they going to add a weapon like Gabe Davis who can help them or not, right? There are some of those unknowns that go into it. But certainly, if you look at the schedule with me and you go up and down it, it's difficult to find 6 that you say the Giants are definitely going to win that. And, look, most of us, what do we know, right? Looking at these games in early August, so much can change. So much is still being worked out in these training camps. So no one can obviously easily pick wins and losses anyway. But my point is a lot more has to start pointing up and improving and showing me obvious strides on offense before I pick that. Now, one reason for optimism on offense, I would say, Candyman, is I like Mike Kafka's play calling. And I'm not saying, down in, down out, I can easily compare Kafka to Dable and that kind of thing. What I can compare, though, is Kafka's misdirection and his ability and his willingness and his strategic insistence upon setting up plays is evident to me. So he will run a play in the first quarter to set up a misdirection off the same look in the third. And that is something that, not that Dable has never done that as a play caller, but Kafka, in my opinion, does that very well. And you see it in practices too. Like they ran a play the other day where they ran a run look and it was a play action and they had Micah McFadden biting hard from the linebacker spot and Daniel Bellinger slipping outside up the left sideline for a big game from Wilson. And it was well executed by all the players, including Wilson and Bellinger and everybody, but it was an excellent, excellent play call. And so that's something to hang your hat on. And then conversely on defense, can you stop the run, which is something the Giants haven't done, and get the offenses off the field so that if your offense is feeling uh, a little bit better and trying to gain momentum, that they're not sitting on the bench watching your defense give up a 12-play 80-yard drive. Into, what's up? Great to see you. Into says, what's up, PL? Interior D-line seems to be very iffy. This could be the Achilles heel of the defense. Easy to hold leads if a team is up and runs out the clock. That's very well said, Into. And it's funny, like I did not see your comment there before I mentioned the run defense and the D-line. But you're absolutely right. Still needs to be answered. Like right now, as best as I can tell, Darius Alexander is a huge part of what they believe the solution is there. And so far, I do not see him winning often against backup offensive linemen. Now, he is a rookie who did not do much in the spring because he was injured. So, that's going to happen to somebody who hasn't played enough or even practiced enough at the NFL level. But if he is supposed to be the guy you're leaning on there, along with Roy Robertson Harris and some of the other guys who have been here and not gotten it done, you're just running back what you had last year, except with Abdul Carter, who's a good pass rusher, but is going to have work to do in the run game and certainly isn't a solution to down in, down out interior run defense, right? So I totally agree with you. That is something that, at least personnel wise, from my vantage point, has not been ironed out yet. And, as far as I can see, as I just said, but, bears repeating, as far as I can see, they are hanging a lot of their belief in improvement in that area on the 3rd round pick out of Toledo, Darius Alexander, being the guy that they thought he was when they drafted him. And that was a pick that was liked by a lot of people, like scouts and, draft experts and everybody. Like it's a player that a lot of people were high on. So it's not like when the Giants drafted him, it was like, what the heck is this? There were people who thought that was a good pick at that point. You just rather the Giants be in a roster position where they weren't leaning on him so heavily. So we'll see where that goes. But I agree with you. Listen, this is just the reality is there are a lot of good pass rushers who are not as good run defenders, and what they're known for is getting to the quarterback. Like you always want to find, like everybody wants a Myles Garrett who's over there, like just basically locking down the edge on run plays and also winning in pass rush. But Thibodeau, Brian Burns, even Abdul Carter, these are guys who are known more for their pass rushing ability and then for being solid run stoppers. And so they're working on that. They're constantly practicing that, right? They're trying to set those edges and trying to be strong there. But, across the board, the Giants front is not known for strong run defense. Dexter Lawrence is very difficult for anybody to deal with. And those guys are all good players in their own right. But if they want to stop the run, it has to start, as you said, and as we're talking about, with the interior defensive line getting it done. If that doesn't happen, then everything else falls off from there. Chugging some water here, a little dehydrated. Got to stay hydrated after what happened earlier in the training camp. Peterstown, what's up? He says, hey, Pat, what's the holdup on signing another receiver? By the time they decide to add a vet, it may be too late. Love the show. Thanks, Peterstown. Great to see you. Thanks for the question. The holdup right now, it's interesting. I mean, if it's going to be Gabe Davis, he's not 100% healthy. Like if they signed him today, I don't know if he would just come in and be able to walk right on the practice field, So it just could be like, let's sign it. Like if they're eyeing a player like that, and that is a player they're interested in, there's mutual interest, then it could be a situation of like, okay, let's wait until he feels he's ready. We feel he's ready. Then we bring him in. We take that physical, right? Because he did visit them in the spring. So then hopefully he comes in again. You're able to measure the results and be able to test him and evaluate him against what you saw in the spring. And then you can incorporate him and put him, you hope in some form right onto the field and into your offense versus maybe just onboarding him in meetings. I mean, obviously, if you're going to bring a player in, the sooner the better, just to get them started. Um, but Dable's also the kind of guy, like if they're planning on bringing Gabe Davis in 2 weeks, let's say, Dable's the kind of guy who could be FaceTiming with him every day leading up to that and talking with him, because he's a free agent. You'd be allowed to do that. So, there's ways to kind of stay in touch and try to onboard somebody before they're actually in, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's they're also, I would say this, Peterstown, the reason it jumps out to you right now is, well, first of all, Jalen Hyatt got back on the field after an early camp injury. Looked like something with his leg, could be a hammy, quad, calf, whatever it is. So good to see him back on the field. And listen, this is something Allen Robinson said on my show earlier this spring, is that he felt like, although Gabe is a really good receiver, Allen said, like, let's see what Jalen has before you do anything, because he felt like he was underutilized and could do it. And so if you're the Giants, you definitely want to see Jalen Hyatt in some preseason action and give him a chance and a good runway. I mean, listen, they wanted him badly in that third round. They talked about how highly they had him graded. They went and got him, when they drafted him and all that. Like they were sky high about this Biletnikoff Award winner. So validating their selection and their evaluation, the Giants are always all about that. And really, that's why you're drafting these players, whether they blossom in year 1 or year 3. You have a trajectory that you envision for each guy, and you just want them to see that potential to complement the rest of the team. So there's an element of that too. What do we have in the building already that we can work with? But right now, Bo Collins still on the side, Darius Slayton on the side now. He's a vet, so you'd hope that's just precautionary. But like Bo Collins, undrafted rookie, hasn't practiced in the last 3 practices, plus an off day. Darius Slayton hasn't practiced in 2 practices. And so Hyatt missed the early part of training camp. And, really, I've said this before, I'll say it again. The slot position is concerning, I think. Like Wandale has some good traits, but I would, Montreal Washington coming on and having a pretty good camp is exciting. Gunnar Olszewski had a nice day today, had 4 catches on the same drive, including a touchdown from Jameis Winston. So yeah, listen, more depth and more good or A-list or proven players is a good thing, Peterstown. I agree with you. So I feel like also their willingness to have Gabe in already, they're poking around that market, and it's obvious they see it. So you would think sooner or later something would happen there. You just definitely don't want injuries to have them in a situation where guys are in and out and you're not developing chemistry, and then you're relying on, like, a guy like Bo Collins. He's looked pretty good in the spring and early summer. Now is a little bit banged up. If he ramps up, gets healthy in late August, are you ready to just throw him into games that matter if he plays the preseason finale and be relying upon that player? Not that he couldn't do it, but that's the game you play, of judging, like, how does it translate from early training camp and preseason games to the real thing. Joey B, what's going on? Great to see you. Joey B wants the front line to be called the Broadway Bullies. I don't hate it. What do you guys think of that, Broadway Bullies? All right, let's see. Chris Rossetti says, Pat, what's going on, my friend? I don't curse much on this panel, but here we go. Can you grill the living shit out of Dable whenever you guys next talk to him about playing the starters this week? It's funny you say that, Chris, because I asked Dable that question today. I asked him that here Monday, August 4th at practice number 10, before practice number 10. I asked Brian Dable if he intends to play the starters this year, or if he's going to do it more like he did the last 2 years when he largely did not. And he didn't really give an answer, but he said, yeah, there's a chance that starters could play. So here's where I come down on this. So the first year, 2022, he's getting to know the team. It's a brand new team. Everyone's auditioning. And, obviously there was nowhere to go but up in a lot of ways from how the previous season ended. And so from there, it was everybody on board with being evaluated, fresh eyes, fresh look at what everyone can do, and everyone's kind of bought in on that. Saquon played in that first preseason game that year. Daniel Jones, the starter at quarterback, played in the preseason game that first year, et cetera. The last 2 years, largely, so Daboll did not, play his starting quarterback, did not play most of the starters, did, though, in the last couple of years, play projected rookie starters in the opener. So whether it's Malik Neighbors, Tyler Nubin, guys who are healthy rookies, Daboll has given playing time to, even if they were obvious projected starters in the first preseason game. So that should mean that against the Bills, at a minimum, well, we know we're going to see Jackson Dart, right? You're going to see Jackson Dart, but it should mean also you're going to see Abdul Carter. You're going to see Darius Alexander. It does not seem like you're going to see Cam Scatterbo in the preseason opener. He is injured and was not even out on the field. And probably not Thomas Fedone, the tight end, either, but we will see about that. But any rookie, even if they're projecting to get significant playing time, should see some snaps at least early on in this game. Now, I agree with you. I feel like you don't want to overdo it. You never want to look back at this and say, my goodness, we have 4 really good players on this roster, and one of them got hurt and was out for the year because we played him in the first preseason game, right? You don't want to be in that position. But where the Giants are, and I think this is where you're coming from, the Giants are 3-14 coming off last year. They need to change the way they do everything. And that doesn't mean you just do the opposite of what you did a year ago. But what I mean is you need to do whatever it takes to be prepared for week 1, because the methods they've used the last 2 years, the players they've had, the way they've coached the team, it has resulted in them getting wiped off the face of the earth in the first game of each of the last 2 seasons by the Cowboys and the Vikings, respectively. So you just can't put your team in that position, and you need to look on the field and figure out how that needs to happen. One of the big reasons why it's important to probably play some starters, the offensive line. The offensive line needs work. It needs to gel together in games. I know a lot of these guys played together last year, but you need to see it again. Okay. You're going to need Andrew Thomas on the field at some point. Also, you don't want to throw Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, like these backups out there behind a line that has them running for their lives. In particular, Dart, who you're trying to develop. Yes, you want to throw him into the fire and see him handle it live in games, but you don't want to see him overwhelmed and not have a chance. You don't want to see, Drew Lock running for his life last year behind the second string offensive line. Like, you want your backups to be able to survive back there and give them a chance to make plays. One offensive lineman I think that needs to play a solid amount in the preseason is Evan Neal. And a reason for that is I think right guard right now, even though he's trying to make the transition and he's working at it, right as of this moment, what I've seen does not encourage me. I think in the running game, you could see some great things from Neal, and you have seen some really good things. But in pass protection and sometimes in the run game, you see one thing that's very similar to what Neal has struggled with in the past. That is, and this doesn't just go for Evan Neal, it goes for any of the players we would talk about that have underachieved or not reached expectations or who we want to see more from, is you want to see that when a player makes a mistake, it doesn't absolutely kill a drive. It doesn't always lead to a turnover or an injured quarterback or a touchdown if you're a player on defense. Like Evan, if he has misses, or like I said earlier, guys aren't going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You just don't want your mistakes. You can't have your mistakes. Like in his situation, let's say they end up starting him at guard, right? If they end up starting Evan Neal at right guard over Greg Van Roten, you're risking that when he has that one bad play that's a killer play, it's going to devastate the offense, the quarterback, the game, the team. Now, Not that Van Roten's perfect. If Van Roten plays, he might make that mistake too. But I'm just commenting on who should play, who is playing, right? Evan Neal, a guy who could project to be a starting right guard. I think he needs to see reps in these games and put it on tape that he's going to be reliable and that his bad is not going to be falling off a cliff bad. It's going to be maybe subpar one play, but then back to average the next, then back above average. You win a rep, you make a great block and spring a big run. Then maybe you get beaten pass pro, but you hold off long enough that the quarterback gets the ball out, doesn't take a hit, right? No whiffs, no down on the ground. And now it's a free runner. Like those are the things that you don't want to see. JDJ, what's going on? JDJ says he went to practice today. Good times. Good times out there, no doubt. G-Men says, we need to get off to a fast start. Not only this team needs it, but this regime needs it in the worst way. Interesting that G-Men and Chris put the same question in the chat there. I'm a little bit confused by that. All right. Welvin says, I feel like Holland's pick today was more of a knock on Wandale's small catch radius than a great play by Holland. Wandale annoys me. I don't think that's an unfair comment by you. Like somebody with longer arms catches that for sure. It's obviously the quarterback's job to put the ball on the receiver. But yeah, like, you know, I don't think that's an unfair comment by you. I think the slot receiver position is an important one in this offense. And I think you need more there. And I don't disagree with you that while that pass was a little bit out of reach, it was not like, oh, he missed him. You know, another receiver running that route would have gotten his hands on it. Like if that were Slayton, Hyatt, or Neighbors, their hands would have touched the ball, right? But listen, Wandale ran a route. He got there, just didn't make the play. Jazz Meat, Giants Sing, like I said, Saturday, August 1st, 902 Brewing in Jersey City. Thanks for joining us here, Jazz Meat. Great to see you. Giants fans, go watch the game there. Will be a great time on the rooftop. And like I said, if I don't make it out to that one in person, considering it, if I'm able to make it, I will. But if not, then I will make it out to one sooner or later. And I'm big into starting to do more events to be amongst you and having those conversations in person. MAV says Scataboo. Scataboo, okay. Well, where he stands, had an MRI on his leg, believed to be, well, it is a leg injury. You know, Dan Duggan reported he believes it's a hamstring. That's what it looks like from watching him. I don't know that for sure, but that's what it looks like. But Scataboo, you know, we asked Abel about it today. He did not give up anything specific. Definitely, though, when a guy misses 3 days or 2 days of practice, that sandwich an off day, and then he comes back, takes 2 carries, and then has a quote-unquote setback, according to the coach. You know, I would not expect to see him anytime soon. I would guess that the goal will be for them to make sure and try to make sure that he's ready for the regular season. No one's told me that exactly, but it has the feeling of, you know, why push it because they think he's important. Now, he looked upset walking off the field. You saw that one video of him walking off the field. And, you know, definitely frustration that he can't be out there. He's that kind of guy, doesn't like missing a day. But certainly a player who looks like he can help them if he's on the field. So very frustrating that he's not at the moment. Jim says, Pat, Russell Wilson last good season was 2021. His weakness is his height and inability to see over the O-line. Are you seeing any clues one way or the other? Yeah, you know, a little bit in the red zone. You know, I think sometimes a challenge for him to see over the line. I think part of the reason he ends up being better on the deep balls, he still has the arm to throw it. But also it tends to be the kind of plays. They're not deep balls where he's holding the ball forever and then throwing it down the field. It's like a set play with a go route where he's able to plant his foot, look up, and drive it deep, you know? So it's not like a reading the full field through the line, over the middle, you know, that kind of thing. It's kind of a point and shoot play, which he's better at. Yeah, I mean, Jim, if I'm being honest, I think I think so far the quarterbacks look exactly as I thought they would. Jameis is most explosive, but does put the ball in harm's way a little too often. Jackson Dart is up and down, is making progress, but is up and down, holds the ball too much at times. Russell Wilson has thrown some good deep balls and made some good plays, but I feel like a lot of his drives in a real game would have stalled out either due to protection issues, to him holding the ball and protection issues and some combo of the two, or to turnovers and and interceptions. Today on that one drive that ended in the pick by Holland, Brian Burns had what would have been a sack. Kayvon Thibodeau had what would have been a sack. Waddale had a drop, and then there was the interception by Holland. Like to me, I need to see more. I need to see more. Like, not to be a pessimist, but here's how I feel about Wilson is show it to me, and then I'll believe. I'm not just going to believe, like you said, that he's going to be the guy he was 4, 5, 6 years ago. Once he shows that to me and the offense shows that to me, I will believe it. JDJ says we can't get too critical. Might get a call from Hanlon. No. I think the objective here is always to be critical, analytical, but also fair, right? So always want that. And if people think I'm being unfair, love having those conversations. You don't always end up agreeing for sure. But as long as they can be respectful, then you don't mind having those conversations. And honestly, you want to hear when your subjects, have an issue or feel like you missed something or whatever it is. Yeah, JFed says no need to rush Scadaboo back. Well, he does. Here's the thing. As promising as he looks, there's another example of a guy who, like, what's he going to be when the NFL games actually start? Like, all he's done is training camp so far. So you still don't know what it's going to look like when the games start. But yes, agree. Antonio, great to see you. Antonio says, how do you expect the Giants to handle the QB rotation in this week's preseason game? I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to play in this game. I feel like he's not. No one's told me that. I think it's more likely going to be heavy doses of really all three quarterbacks, probably. Maybe like a heavy dose of Dart, heavy dose of Jameis, and the rest DeVito. And then as we get later into the preseason, DeVito seeing even more time in those home games. The home Jersey crowd gets to watch the local kid, along with Dart developing. Russ getting in a lot of work against the Jets and joint practices, I would think, as well as some game action. I would like to see the first team offense in some game action. Of course, you have to consider things like Malik Neighbors' toe, things like that. There's some things you got to be safe about. But yeah, definitely the starters need to go. My guess, and I was trying to get to the bottom of this today, Antonio, I don't know exactly yet. But my guess is you're going to see heavy doses of Jameis and Dart with DeVito sprinkled in. And frankly, I think that the preseason games in the Giants' minds, I think their hope is that Dart continues to make strides. And then now no one has told me this. This is my opinion. Okay. I think that they would love to play Jameis a good amount in the preseason games and have him look good and try to get something for him that's not like a conditional seventh. And if Dart's playing well, you can deal Jameis and then either Russ starts or Dart starts, right off the bat in week 1. And then they feel safe with those quarterbacks and they still keep DeVito, who, is just, the guy's like a cockroach on this roster. Like you can't kill him, So, that is my hunch about how this could ideally go in their minds. But that's just reading the tea leaves. I just don't see a place for Jameis in the quarterback room in the regular season. That's where I come down on that. All right, let's see. Joey B says he's going to Buffalo to yell wide right. Joey B going to Buffalo. Love it. Love it. Going to the game. That's right. Love it. Jay Farry says Giants sing NYC legend. Joey B says Giants are a 3-win team. Jay Farry thinks around 5 is safe, but something will fall apart, probably Russ or Thomas. Jay Farry's one of those fans. Low expectations and insensitivity equals happiness. Yeah, it's tough, though, because you want to invest in your team, right? Because if you invest and they win, that's the best part. But if you invest and they lose, oh, it hurts. Oh, it hurts, right? Like Notre Dame this year going to the national championship. It's like you get locked in and you live and die with every play, and you're hoping for the win at the end, right? The cherry on top. So when your team wins in those moments in the semifinal, things like that, you're riding high. And when they lose, you're as down as you could ever be. Eventually you're grateful for being along for the ride, but man, does it hurt in those moments. All right. Kyler says, so does the scenario change if Dart balls out in the preseason? Russ played well in the preseason back in 2012 and won the starting job. Josh Allen, I'm pretty sure, got the start in the second or third game rookie year. Yeah, Kyler, I think that their hope, like, listen, any team's hope when they draft a quarterback early, the earlier that quarterback is ready to play and like grabs hold of it and takes it and makes clear to everyone in the building, I'm the guy. Like, that's the ideal situation. Even if you draft a guy, let's say there are people in the Giants building who had drafted Dart and thought, hey, let's give him a year. He needs a year. If you're one of those people in the front office who thinks he needs a year of seasoning and you hope that he doesn't have to get on the field, and Dart comes out and proves you wrong, and by the end of August, you say, wow, he's the best quarterback on our roster, then you play him. And that's that puts a smile on everybody's face because you hit on the evaluation and now the kid's exceeding even what your expectation was. So, I think that the door is always open for him to play and to play early. I definitely believe that the door is open for him to play early if the offense struggles right out of the gate, like I think it could and will. If Russell Wilson ends up being the week 1 starter and the offense is humming, then, you're not seeing a change. Like, there won't be any reason to go to one or think of one at those moments. But I will say this, Joe Shane, Brian Dable, Joe Shane, especially like in the interviews, the rounds of interviews he's done, he does go to that mentioning of Josh Allen going in, early, right? He does make mention of that. He has said it once or twice on the record in the last month doing kind of the pre-training camp media rounds. And so that's something to keep an eye on and keep in mind. That's a really good question by you, Kyler. I think I picked in week 4 in my preseason, like in my spring schedule predictions, I picked the Giants to put Dart in. I think it was either during the Chiefs game or during the Chargers game. I think it was during the Chargers game in week 4 that I picked them to put him in. So that's just to say, Kyler, yes, I believe that there will be early opportunities and possibilities of him to get in. Now, not to sit here and pat myself on the back because I get, every squirrel finds a nut. We all get things wrong. But you can go back and look. The year that the Giants drafted Daniel Jones, they swore up and down and inside out that Eli Manning, it was still his job. They were going to groom Daniel behind him. And listen, there were a lot of people who covered Eli for so long or rooted for Eli for so long. They could never see it. They couldn't see it coming, even with Eli being benched previously. And I went on FS1 First Things First on the show, national television. And I predicted in August of that year that they were going to replace Eli Manning with Daniel Jones in week 3. I think it was. I believe it was week 3. Whatever week they did it, I predicted that in late August, and they did it. And there were several reasons I did, knowing how Shermer felt about Jones, knowing that Shermer really had an idea that Eli was limited, knowing how it benefited them if Daniel went in and he played well, but also just understanding that teams invest in players at that position. They want to see them on the field, and it's better for everybody if they're on the field and they're good. And it's impossible also to lie to a locker room that knows that one guy gives them a better chance to win than the other, or lifts the energy of the team to a different place than it's been before. So those are elements that, listen, Dart is a later first rounder than Daniel Jones. But that still holds. Like, always just keep in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind when we talk about, like right now, when we sit here and we talk about, does Dart have a chance to play? Does he have a chance to play early? The answer is always they're looking for reasons for him to convince them. The answer is yes. That's the answer. Great question, Kyler. Jasmine says, Joey, we have added talent. We can't be at just 3, which is the same number as last year. Yeah, you hope not. I know. Jalen Hyatt's an important player in this on this roster, or could be. Jim says, can you explain how the NFL sets the schedule for teams? Why does a poor team get a difficult schedule and a good team an easy schedule? Yeah, so Jim, the NFL every year, it has a rotation of divisions that every team plays. So on a rotating basis, the NFC East plays, each of the teams in one of the different NFC East divisions, and on a rotating basis plays one of the teams in one of the AFC East divisions or AFC divisions. So, for example, just in an arbitrary, like on a rotation, like on a think of like a spin wheel or a pinwheel. It's like, oh, okay, this year we play everyone in the NFC North. And then next year we'll play everyone in the NFC South, and so on, right? And then you also have that happening in the AFC. And so that accounts for 8 of your opponents, right? So that's 8 games. And then you have 6 games in division, right? So that's 14. And then you also have, there's a counterpart to it where you play teams from other divisions with similar finishes to you the previous year. So it's rotating basis NFC division, rotating basis AFC division, 6 games in your own division, and then 3 based on where you finished the previous year in your division and how that coincides with some teams in other divisions. And so it just so happened that last year the Giants drew the NFC North. That was a bad one to draw. And then this year they drew the NFC East, or no, sorry, not NFC East. They drew I'm getting them mixed up as my head because I'm using East, West, all my directionals. Hold on. So last year, the Giants ended up facing, it was the AFC North. That's what I was thinking of, the AFC North, not the NFC North. So they drew the AFC North last year. So that meant that they were playing the Ravens, loss, the Steelers, loss, the Bengals, loss, and then they got a win against the Browns, right? And then the crazy thing last year, and this is why when people say, how could the Giants not be better? How, you look at last year, they had the NFC South last year. They played the Falcons, the Saints, the Bucks, and the Panthers, and they went 0-4 against the NFC South. So this is one reason why it's hard for me to go over 5.5 wins, and also why good schedule, strong schedule, difficult schedule, easy schedule, these Giants have to prove they can do it. They went 0-6 in their division, and they went 1-11 in the NFC. So let's just start there. Now, this year, they've drawn the AFC West. Now, again, that's on a rotating basis. So that's not like after last year, they recentered it, they looked at everything, and they said, let's give them the AFC West. This is a predetermined annual rotation of these other divisions. So that's why they have the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders, right? That's how they draw them. And then they have the NFC North this year. So that's actually, they have 3 in a row, which is kind of funny. They have the Bears, Packers, and Lions back to back to back. And then the Vikings later in the season after the bye between the Commanders and Raiders before they finish up against the Cowboys. And then some of those other games, the Niners, the Patriots, and what's the other one I'm missing? And the Saints. Those all relate to teams that also finished in last place, I believe, in their divisions last year. That should be what coincides there. Let me see. Yeah, so Patriots last place. Saints last place, Niners last place. Right. So then, right. So that's the other divisions. The divisions that aren't a part of your rotation, then you play the teams that coincide with your record. I hope that clarifies it. I was just kind of working it out and double checking what they had in the rotation the last couple of years, but that's how they form it, Jim. And so also, let's just be totally honest and fair to the Giants is now it's their fault for not building at the same pace and not having sound drafts and roster builds. But the NFC East has built itself up now where the Eagles are one of the best teams annually, perennially right now in football. Washington is on the up and up with Jaden Daniels. We don't know what Dallas is going to be, but all this is to say their own division is one of the toughest divisions in the NFL just because of 2 of the teams in it. So that's part of what makes it feel extra hard. Like those first 4 games, Chiefs and Chargers make it feel really difficult, especially because it's backed up after you're facing Washington, who isn't your older brother's Washington team. And you're facing Dallas, who, regardless of what they are or not, they usually seem to have more talent on the field. And the Giants never beat Dak Prescott and never beat them, especially there. So that's part of what makes it feel tough. Joe says, Pat, ask the question why the Broncos coach took an $85 million hit to get rid of Wilson. Yeah, no, like that's Joe, you said it well there. That's what I'm saying is show it to me, then I'll believe. JD says on the final cut day, there's bound to be a few serviceable veterans available. Which position do you expect the Giants to look at on the waiver wire? Well, injuries dictates that sometimes, JD, at that point of the season, like for depth purposes. Like right now, defensive tackle is one that concerns me. So let me look at my roster here real quick. So they've kind of had a weird start. Like we talked about earlier, it seems like they're relying on the rookie Darius Alexander really to kind of come into his own there quickly enough to help them. We'll see if that happens. But, a couple guys have been out with personal reasons like Chapman, Davidson, Riley's hurt. Ledbetter has been in there a little bit. Robertson Harris is projecting as like the first/second man up. Nunez Roches as well, Nacho. And then there's Elijah Garcia in the rotation as well as Corey Durden. There's a lot of names there, but who is going to plug those holes and stop those 2-yard carries from becoming 6-yard carries when push comes to shove? I think interior D-line should consistently be an area that they are attacking and looking at. I think corner is always a position to keep looking at. Paulson Adebo in there, but still with Banks having a tough camp recently. Cordell Flott's banged up and on the side. Drew Phillips in the slot looking better. Turns out he had LASIK and said he was basically blind as a rookie. So that was an interesting revelation that the Giants drafted a guy that they knew did not have great eyesight, and that they actually talked to him prior to the draft about eventually getting LASIK. Really interesting there. Hopefully that pays dividends. But yeah, I see those positions. I mean, really look at what they're doing on offense, like their offensive line. They're clearly rolling with what they have, it appears. Running back could be a position that they're attacking late there. Right now, a lot of injuries, depends on Scattaboo. That could be another position to look at. So those are some that come to mind for me. Yeah, I agree. You need a better quarterback to have a better offense. That's what they need Russell Wilson to be. Jazz Meat says game 1 against Washington should be our statement game. We have struggled the past 2 years in winning the opening game. This has to change and set the stage for these young guns. Yeah, I wonder what you guys think. Do you think that the team will play a little bit more loosely because it's an away game? And like the Giants fans travel well to Washington typically. So it should be a crowd that has a good amount of blue jerseys in it. But, the last 2 years, they've been embarrassing in the opener, and it's both been games at home. And, where the franchise is coming off the 3-14 year, planes flying overhead, 100th season. Do you guys agree that it could be a good thing that they're opening away from MetLife Stadium? I personally do, but wonder what you guys think. Let's see. Joe says, how is Neighbors' big toe and Thomas's foot? Well, Thomas is still out. Looks like he's moving. He's moving better every day. And I'm not just saying that as a cliche. Like he's moving in a more confident and determined way when you see him out there, like faster, harder cuts, those types of things when he's doing like the rehab work. But he's moving slower and more gradually and daintily is a word I used the other day than I would have expected based on what I had heard about how he was doing. So that has alarmed me. I'm hoping they're just, I'm hoping that it really is just exercising extreme caution and that he's going to be ready. I know the plan is for him to be ready week 1. Let's see. And then Neighbors' big toe. So interesting enough, like that's something I'm watching very closely. Obviously, it's concerning for him mentioning the S word surgery as an option, even though it's, as I reported, it seems like it's more of an off-season option. So prior to today's practice, Malik was, he was looking like he might not go. Like he was out there. He did through the walkthrough. He did like a flip into the end zone kind of after a catch on the walkthrough. But then when the team was stretching, he walked over with Dable and Kafka, was talking to them, went off to the side. He wasn't a part of the stretching. He was talking to somebody on the staff. Then he looked like he was doing some stretches of his foot. Then he went over and was talking to one of the trainers. Then I saw the Aaron Wellman, who's running the whole basically player management reps workload program. Saw Wellman walking over, talking with Dable. And so I'm looking at this thinking, oh, this might be a day where they're going to back off on Malik and go easy and because of the toe. And then sure enough, he comes out and, catches a deep ball on Drew Phillips, makes a leaping grab over the middle, jumped about 30 feet in the air to celebrate with Montrell Washington when he had a nice one-handed catch on the one-on-ones. So all this is to say, Joe, it's a nagging thing, but it's not affecting Malik on the field right now from what I can see. So that's a good thing, but something you just keep an eye on. Manzo says, hey, Pat, what's the chance of bringing back Isaiah Hodgins? He basically took us to the playoffs and won a game. I would prefer him over Wan'Dale. Yeah, they clearly, even though he was like their guy, they buried him on the practice squad last year. They buried him on the roster, even though he had a knack of getting in the end zone and scoring touchdowns there with Daniel Jones in 2022. And I would not expect him to want to be back here is the best way I would put that. Although guys need jobs, but that's my take. Let's see. All right. Yeah, Lean Steinberg called Shane the worst GM in NFL history by saying he let Barkley go to the Eagles. It was like the Red Sox trading Babe Ruth. What a quote, right? Yeah, that was at the Super Bowl on my podcast in Radio Row in New Orleans. Quite a quote from Lee. Let's see. Okay. GCN says you need to watch the Chargers first half if you can get a copy, Pat. Look how crisp the team was and compared to how the Giants play in their first exhibition game. The Chargers looked great and ready. I saw a little bit of it early, but I need to go back and look at it more. I definitely think Dan Campbell, even though he doesn't want his team to lose, has to be excited that he has so many lessons to teach that Lions team, because they definitely need a kick in the rear. Conversely, I feel like the Lions are a team who could easily take a step back. All right, before we go any further, definitely want to talk to you about our other sponsors. First is Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. Natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. Comes in this bag as a ton of little packets. You can pour in your coffee, water, tea. I put it in my coffee every morning. I'm a big coffee drinker, as you know, from my Estate 98 ads that we've done. The other product, though, that I love and need to get some more of these shipped my way is the cold teas. So that's the Sweet Dreams, the Rise and Shine, the Midday Boost. Those are some of the flavors that you're going to love, especially now in the summer heat. The Boom Chaga cold teas. Chaga has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with beta glutens and cholesterol. And listen to this testimonial from my brother-in-law, actually, who tried it out recently. So he tried out Boom Chaga. He said, first of all, it definitely doesn't have a taste. He was surprised. He said, that's amazing because anything mushroom usually tastes insane to me. I've been drinking coffee without sugar and only milk, and it's not the best, but putting this in my coffee makes it much more enjoyable. It just kills that coffee bitterness, and it feels nice. I approve. So that's from somebody. I just let him try it. And, he is as cynical and critical as I am. So if he didn't like it, he would have said, you could have the rest of this bag back. But he put it in his coffee and he liked it. So that's one person who tried Boom Chaga, recognizes how it makes him feel different, and recognizes its value and what it can do for him. So if you like this product, if you're interested in trying it out, and if you want to support our podcast, go to boomchaga.com to start feeling the difference. And you're going to use that code Talkin Ball 25, Talkin Ball 25, and get a 25% off discount on your first order on the subscribe and save option. You don't have to stay subscribed. You can cancel it out after you order that first order. It's just a great way to support the podcast and to get some money off as you go on your Boom Chaga journey with us. We're grateful to Boom Chaga for sponsoring us here. Let's see. Show says, with all that said, they beat Washington last year if Neighbors makes that catch on the sideline. They do. They do. You're absolutely right. And that's why, also if they didn't, put an injured kicker out there and get him hurt in the at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the game, right? So there's that as well. They could have won that game. And that game is just a great example of how quickly Malik Neighbors was difficult for a team to guard, right? Like Washington played a cloud and just let him catch everything over the underneath because they really didn't have an answer. So that's an example of what he can do for you, and show that's part of why. And Singletary had a good game running the ball that game too. In the offensive line, they ran the ball pretty well, and Daniel made those plays. I think that's why I'm so bullish on. They need something else to hang their hat on offense. Like Malik looks great, but they need at least one other thing. And again, like I said, Slayton's a good player. They like Theo Johnson. They feel like Scadaboo and Tracy and those guys can help in the running game, all those things. But they need something else to hang their hat on to be able to complement Malik and just do that little extra. But you're not wrong about that comment. about Malik in that fourth down either, for sure. All right, we got another super chat in the queue. The Realist, what's up, The Realist? He says, let's smash that like button, fellas. Love the show, Pat. What is your overall evaluation on Dart? Do you think he has what it takes to succeed? Listen, I'll be totally honest. It's so exciting when a team adds a rookie first round quarterback, that if he is looking like he deserves to be on the field in any way, people in my position are usually always screaming for it, right? It's like, hey, get this kid on the field now. You want to see the new guy. The fan base wants to see the rookie, wants to see the first round pick, wants to see the hope of the franchise future now in the present. Like, everybody wants to see the rookie on the field. And so if I felt like it was obvious, you got to get him on the field ahead of Russ, you got to start him, he's got to be the starter at this moment, I would say it. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I think there are days where he looks good, and there are days when he's holding the ball, he's indecisive, and it could be at points like because he wants to make plays, and he does try to make big plays. And remember, early on in camp, he was pushing the ball downfield, got picked once, almost picked a second time. I don't think he's gun shy. He did have some nice throws today. I do think, though, like a lot of rookies, what I've noticed is Dart's snaps go. So you can tell how the play is going to go for Jackson Dart by what happens in the first half second. If he takes the snap and there's any sign of pressure immediately, it's a much different play than if he takes the snap and has a second to breathe. When he has a second to breathe, he seems to go through his progressions normally and at a fair pace and to make a read and a play. He also does not mind scampering out, evading a rusher, and making throws out of structure. But I feel like his process is still speeding up significantly when he sees pressure. And first of all, that's the whole idea of a pass rush. Every quarterback's process speeds up. But you can see it right now with him trying to work on it. Even the play where he made a good step through and threw to Jordan Bly for the touchdown the other day. I posted that video on my social. If you look at certain angles of that, you can see he's actually not under pressure in the pocket right away, but he gets happy feet a little before he then pushes forward and out of the pocket. But there was no need for him to do the rat-a-tat-tat with his feet. Now, I'm not a quarterback foot expert, but I can tell you that, there's times to get your feet moving in that situation and go. And there's times when the rush isn't there. And so you don't need to have happy feet and get off your base like that. And so that's just an example of, now he still made the play, but I think it's going to come down to the games here. I think because one thing about Jackson is he's a gamer, and that's something that's been consistent in all the evaluations. Anybody who knows him will tell you, like, he's one of those guys, the more competitive it is, the more the lights are on, the more he shows up. He's that kind of guy. And, I saw the other day, I think it was Amir Smith-Marset that he had open. I want to say it was Smith-Marset that he thought that he had open, but the receiver didn't turn his head around to the throw. And so the throw fell incomplete. And Dart was yelling, pointing out at the receiver and pointing at his eyes, basically saying, like, you need to look back at me. You need to come find the ball. You need to see the ball. And it was fiery. It was fiery. And so that was interesting to me. But like, to me also, that shows some level of comfort with the rookie, and him trying to lead, trying to be vocal, trying to be assertive. And so you see those qualities and you like it, but and he says all the right things. I think what I would what I would like to see is for him to do it in a game. If he goes into a game and you see consistency and big plays, and taking care of the football, then there's going to be another conversation to have, the realist. But yeah, right now, I would not say, hey, put the kid in, but you see signs. You see signs. All right. Let's get back into the queue here. Let's see. JD says, hey, Pat, since Daboll seems to want Dart to be QB2, how comfortable do you think Winston will be not even dressing on game days? Yeah, I don't think he's going to be on the team. I don't think he's going to be on the team. Joe, I will, you asked, am I going to the Buffalo game, podcast of the game? I'm not going to the Buffalo game. I'm going to stay back for this one. I will be doing a podcast live immediately after the game. I'm going to work the phones wherever I am, whether I'm at the brewing company in Jersey City with Jazz Meat and everybody, or whether I'm at home watching on the big screen at home. I will be doing an immediate live chat once the game ends. So you guys can get immediate reaction and we can talk about what we just saw. Hopefully a lot to break down with Jackson Dart, Abdul Carter, and some exciting rookies and players like that. So yes, we will be going live. We'll be live again on Thursday night, and then we will go live on Saturday, most likely immediately after the game. But I will have an announcement for you guys on Thursday about what that is exactly going to look like. Yeah, it is a concern with the physical style of running, whether Scadaboo will be able to hold up. You especially don't want to see like soft tissue injuries for a player like that and with that style this early. And that's, again, as promising and exciting as he is, that's why you want to see it in a game. Yeah. He is an exciting potential addition, but you need to see it and it needs to hold up in NFL action. Yeah, I would think you'd see quite a bit of Dart in the preseason. That's the question. Is it going to be with the first team offensive line? I mean, he doesn't really practice with them much. Yeah, I wouldn't expect Neighbors to be on the field. No practice so there's a walkthrough tomorrow. It might even be in the stadium. The Giants have a walkthrough tomorrow, and so no media availability in the building. There will be some Zoom interviews, but then there'll be open practices for the media Wednesday, Thursday, prior to a Friday travel day to Buffalo. Joe says Wilson was good at the deep ball. He can't throw intermediate passing game and takes too many sacks. Kurt Warner study ball on YouTube. Kurt Warner studies ball on YouTube. He breaks down all QB films, Dart and Winston. I should take a look at Kurt's breakdown of those guys. You're absolutely right. Kurt is excellent. All right. Do the G-Men play Miami this season? No. No, the Giants do not play the Dolphins this year. Let's see. What else do we got? If you have a Dolphins question, Southside, let me know, though. Yeah, you agree, Dart, fourth or fifth game, GCN. Yeah, Colts are listing Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson both as starting quarterbacks, so like one or the other. It's going to be Daniel Jones. Luann says the Giants can beat anyone on the schedule. That's the spirit, Luann. Joe says, when are the Giants going to call Jerry Jones about a trade for Micah Parsons? You would hope already, even if the Cowboys hung up the phone. Jackson, yes, we go to practice this week and the rest of August, even though it's now closed to the public. So yes, we get to go to practice. So the videoing of it is different though now because fans aren't allowed there. We're not allowed to video some of the portions that we have been. So There will be less video of like jaw-dropping plays coming from us. The Giants would be the only ones who could video that. 4-0 start, says Luann. I love Luann's positivity. Let's forget the past. It doesn't matter. This is a new season. Let's see. Any chance Andrew Thomas could be ready to go for practice with the Jets? Any intel of a possible return date? I know that Andrew wants to get a little bit of game action in before the season starts. Like, so whether that means joint practices with the Jets or preseason game against the Jets or just the final preseason game against the Patriots, I know that he ideally does not want to go into that week 1 game against the Commanders with that being the first time he's playing in a game. And I would think it would be he would want to be in a game and not just joint practices either. So I would think it's either, return to practice next week with an eye on playing in the Patriots game, or step on the field this week and ramp up to, limited at Jets and then, playing in Patriots week kind of thing. But yeah, Dable insists that he's doing pretty well. Like I asked flat out, like he doesn't look real as strong out there as I would have expected out there. Like, do you really think he's going to be okay? And Dable was like, yeah. No, like I think he's doing pretty well. So yeah, that's my guess. No Mets will be at the game on Saturday as well. Nice. GCN says if Neal can't play guard, will the Giants cut him? Good question. I don't know that. A2, great to see you as always. Hirsch, what's going on? Kyler wants to know if they could ever have a division realignment because Dallas and NFC East is stupid. You'd like a realignment with Carolina in the NFC East. And then AFC East, throw the Jets in there with Baltimore, Patriots, Bills, New Orleans, Dallas, ATL, Bucks in the South, and Pittsburgh, Indiana, Cincy, and Cleveland. Interesting, Kyler. You really thought this out. I like it. Yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting. Geographically, obviously, Dallas makes no sense in this division. The rivalries, though, the Philadelphia Dallas rivalry is as nasty and as storied as any. New York, Philly, New York, Dallas. There's so much tradition in some of that. Not that means it'll go on forever, but there's definitely more considerations than just geography there. Certainly, Kyler. Also, based on how I know these owners think, I mean, it's all about making money, and also they're expanding, not contracting. In other words, they're closer to talking about, hey, could we have a Europe division, right? Could we add 2 teams in London and 2 in other countries, and then have them play each other a bunch in division, and then fly over and play 4 straight road games in the US, right? Like that's almost the kind of thing that they're going towards with all these games they're playing overseas. They're almost closer to stretching it out than, hey, let's do what makes sense geographically, right? You'd want them to think that way, but that's not where the focus is. I haven't heard a push for that too, Kyler. That's a good question. That's the kind of thing, like when people in power push it, it gets legs. But if the people who are running these teams and making the money aren't pushing it, then they're not saying it, and they're not going to do it. See if they'll call the Giants pass rush the boom chaga. JDJ says that's funny. Barb, QB rotation, I believe, is going to be a heavy doses of Dart and Jameis and a little DeVito sprinkled in for the first one, is what I think. We'll see, though. Joe says, Pat, Andrew Thomas is injury prone and has not played a full season in 3 years, will not last half a season. Neighbors will have surgery on his big toe injury he has had since college and not finish the season. Yeah, you hope not, Joe. You hope not. Those are 2 irreplaceable players. Josh says, Jameis is the most talented quarterback in the room, and Pat doesn't think he will be on the team. Cold world. Ja, I agree with you. about where he should be. And that is at the very least in a competition for the starting job. So you and I agree on that. But I've just heard nothing inside the building that makes me think that the Giants feel the same way. So that's where I come down on that, like, unfortunately. We'll see though. Like, things could play out, depends on who stays healthy, a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, the guy's explosive. Like, he drove the offense down for the touchdown, the only full field touchdown drive today, the third string offense. The other day, he would have scored in 2 minutes. He hit Daquan Felton right in the hands with a deep ball, right, dropping the bucket, and he dropped safety. What was it? O'Donnell Fortune, I think maybe got his, is that his name? Got his hand on it at the end. But it was a flat out drop, like, not giving him that just got broken up. And by the way, while we're discussing things that are sweet, like Jameis's deep ball to Daquan Felton that bounced off his hands a couple days ago, I want to remind you guys about one of our newest sponsors, and that's Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. Hooks, Rubs, and Spices is founded, owned, and operated by our good friend, Jared, who hails from Houston originally. And his product, from the taste of flavors like smoke and sweetness to the swag that he has on hooksrub.com, is top notch. And this is the way to support one of your own, not just our channel, but one of your own. That's Jared, a diehard, lifelong Giants fan who is hoping this year specifically that Tracy Dart, Kayvon Thibodeau, Scattaboo, and Darius Alexander will be great for the team, live up to the hype and potential, along with Evan Neal and Jalen Hyatt coming into their own. Whether you're smoking brisket, searing steaks, or burgers, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices brings big Texas flavor straight to your grill. These award-winning, allergen-free rubs are made to elevate every bite. From our fan favorite smoke and sweetness to bold blends like Midnight, we keep your food flavorful and your guests coming back. Grab yours at hooksrub.com and follow at hooksrub on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And here's the big one. You're going to want to go to hooksrub.com. There's a link in my profile here on YouTube. And you're going to want to use the code Talkin Ball on hooksrub.com. That's hooksrub.com/Talkin Ball. Use that code today. You'll get 15% off your order at hooksrub.com. I'm telling you, a lot of great flavors. Smoke and sweetness, though, that's the award winner. That's won several awards. And I promise you, you're going to love the swag. You're going to love the taste. And you're going to be supporting one of your own. And let's face it, who among us is watching a Giants game or an NFL game? And if you're not working in the press box like me and you're afraid of getting mustard on your shirt, if you're in the tailgate lot, in the backyard, watching in your basement, watching in your den, your living room, whatever it is, who isn't grilling out? So if you're going to grill out, you're a Giants fan, support one of your own. Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. hooksrub.com/Talkin Ball. Go there today. All right. Let's see. Mikey says, could the Giants be the surprise team in the first half of the season, or who do you think is? Good question, Mikey. I don't personally think the Giants will be that. I think the schedule is in part getting in the way of that. Of course, as we've said, if Russell Wilson plays well, turns back the clock, anything's possible, right? So, it's not impossible, but the Giants offensively, I think for me to feel that way, Mikey, I need to feel like they are going to be a team that's going to score 23, 24 points a game, which is not crazy, right? That's not like league leading stuff. It's just, I think they need to improve by like a touchdown scored per game in order to be competitive against the level of competition they're going to be playing this season. So who do I think is going to be a surprise early team? Well, this isn't a really surprise team, but I picked the Houston Texans to be in the Super Bowl last year, and obviously they didn't get there. They fell short to the Chiefs in the playoffs, but they have a really strong defense. And if Stroud with a new offensive coordinator and that offense kind of gets back on track, obviously the offensive line is a big question mark there. They've retooled that after a rough year up front last season. So I don't really think that would be a surprise team because everybody knows they're pretty good, if not to really good. But that's a team I have my eye on right from the jump. I do personally think, without digging too far into it, I think Detroit, with Ben Johnson gone and with Hutchinson coming back off that injury, I just believe that it's not going to be easy for them. Now, listen, they were 15-2 last year. So if they lose a couple more games and they still win 11 and 12 games, that's still a pretty good to really good team. But I don't look at Detroit and say they're obviously going to run it back and be just as great. I still think they're going to be good, but I think they have their work cut out for them. I mean, Johnson in the offensive scheme really was a huge part of what made that run in conjunction with Campbell as their leader. And the way that it ended in the playoffs there with Goff against Washington, um, that was really leaves a sour taste. And I wonder how they will bounce back from that. I really do. Um, I like, let's see. I want to say the Bears, but it sounds like they're a little volatile right now. Like, especially with their quarterback, with Caleb Williams, kind of up and down, up and down. Like, if he could just be steady, I think that it could be Chicago, but I'm not sure if Caleb can be that. But it could be Chicago if Caleb can level off and just be, reliable. Um, who's another team that I like? So one team, well, Denver as well. They're popular though. That's a popular pick. So Daniel Jones, if he starts, the Colts play the Dolphins in week 1, the Broncos week 2, the Titans week 3, the Rams week 4, the Raiders week 5, and the Cardinals week 6. Okay. Now, Shane Steichen, does he, with a new defensive coordinator in Lou Anarumo, do they have what it takes to turn that team into a good team? And, because remember last season, Gus Bradley's defense quitting on the field, Steichen as the head coach of that, not able to control that or prevent that. Anthony Richardson walking off the field and quitting after a play. Like, that all really looked ugly. But when you look at that schedule, there's a potential 4-2 start on that schedule for the Colts. I'm not saying they're going to be 4-2. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm looking at which of these teams could be better that no one really thinks is going to be very good. And I'm not saying it's going to last the season, but I do think there's a chance, Mikey, that early on, that Indianapolis's combination of better quarterback play, because Jones is, obviously has flaws, but like, he's a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. And Anarumo is going to get that defense playing hard again. I don't know what exactly it's going to look like, but I can promise you there will be effort and there will be some more schematic advantages to it. So I think that that's an easy place to start. Joe says, Pat, they could realign when the NFL expands to Europe, Canada, and Mexico. Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right about that. Like, if they expand internationally, but it's a little scattershot, like with one in each, and then from there you redo it geographically. All right, yeah, thanks for helping me come back around on that one. Ben wants to know if I could see the Giants trading Motor Singletary. Well, right now they don't have great depth at running back. I agree with your premise that Singletary doesn't excite you and you don't feel like that there's room for him as a significant weapon for the Giants because you're thinking probably about Tracy, about Scadaboo. I don't know, though, what you're thinking about after that. I mean, maybe you're envisioning Eric Gray being a big contributor. I would not rely upon him. I mean, he's on the physically unable to perform list. Hopefully gets back healthy at some point relatively soon. We don't know where that stands at the moment. But from there, Gray also has to take another step and prove that he can handle it and be a reliable NFL player as well. So Singletary, yeah, I'm with you on Singletary. I mean, you'd rather have like a younger, cheaper player, and frankly, I'd rather have some size in the backfield. Like I like Scadaboo running style, but like I want some size back there, man. Like I want some punishing runners. So I personally would not mind them upgrading the backfield a little bit somehow. See, if he could easily just be like okay, let's back him off. Let's try to get him ready for week one. That could be what this is, right? But like behind Tracy, it's right now it's Singletary, then it's Dante Miller, and that's it. They signed Jonathan Ward because Rashawn Baker got hurt. You have Gray on PUP. So I feel like that running back room, there's a lot of names on the board, but then like very quickly it can look paper thin. So I hear your idea of upgrading at that spot, but it's not like there's a glut of running backs either, if that makes sense. So I would like a good replacement for him. It would not just be, let's take him out of the room because the room's fine without that player. It's not yet. Big Dash reminds you to hit the like button, folks. Thank you so much, Big Dash. Really appreciate you. Ja Soul calling out hooks. Ja, did you buy the hooks rub? I think you said you were going to purchase some with the code last time. Christian says, how do you think James Hudson looks he's going to play this year? Lately he's been giving up some sacks to Kayvon Thibodeau's, losing some of those battles. I do think he prefers to play with a really, really sharp edge. I think the Giants are trying to make sure he's playing responsibly on that edge. And I don't know, maybe he's better when he's wound up more because he's been tamer lately and it's coincided with worse play and pass protection from my vantage point. So listen, the bottom line is he's a step down from Andrew Thomas. So, you need to see more there. I mean, I think he's better than Josh Azudu for sure, but you need to see more. I don't think Christian Wilkins to the Giants. I mean, as of a conversation I had a few days ago, didn't sound like he's ready to play football as a player who, if he has his contract guaranteed, it's not like anyone's just going to be able to sign him on the cheap. Probably have a market for him if he is healthy where he can leverage and get a more expensive contract than the Giants want to pay. I'm sure Dexter Lawrence will be banging down their door to do it. But then you also have the off-field stuff too. So you have to think about that. JD says, am I crazy to think that Carter is about to explode out of the gate game one and absolutely dominate with 3 sacks and a forced fumble with the Giants victory? He has the physical talent, JD. There's no doubt about it. He has the physical talent. He is something to watch when he is on. The Giants just need to make sure they get into game situations, third downs, third and longs, have a lead, hopefully, so the other team has to throw the ball, things like that, where they can unleash him properly. I don't think it's fair to necessarily expect him to be dominating a game in week one right off the bat as a rookie, but he is creating high expectations for himself by how he's doing in camp. I think, JD, the expectations could build to something like what you're talking about if he starts tuning up like other team starters in games in the preseason. Like we're all at the point covering the team now where we want to see him go up against other teams' best linemen. Like he's already there. Joe says, Pat, the NFL will charge $6 billion a team for 7 new teams, $42 billion over $1 billion. for the 32 owners each. NFL sets the deal in the Cayman Islands, so zero tax to the owners on the $1 billion. Joe, love where your head's at, man. Businessman. Yes, Eric Gray, preseason legend. GCN says, what is Dart's weight compared to Scatman? All right, so Jackson Dart weighs, he's 6'2", 223. And the Scatman is 5'11", 215. So, yeah, Jackson Dart, not skinny and frail. He's he's built like an athlete. Doesn't necessarily look like a quarterback, looks like an athlete. GCN says Pat Carter will have to be double teamed by every NFL team. You hope, because Dexter needs to be double teamed too. Guys, this has been awesome chat. Welvin, Candyman, Into, The Realist, thank you so much for your super chats. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I told you guys earlier, Jazz Meat, Giant Sing, he is hosting a game watch for the Bills game Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, 902 Brewing in Jersey City. Please go down there, have a beer, have a pint, cheer on your team. Hopefully watch Jackson Dart, put some good football on the field. And off we go with the Giants preseason rolling. Reminder again, please go to my bookie. The links and all for my sponsors are all in my profiles, but you're going to go to mybookie.ag. It's actually mybookie.website/join with Leonard is the link. But if you go to mybookie, use the code Leonard, Leonard. That's my last name. You'll get welcome bonuses. And of course, you'll get access to the best place to bet football, basketball, baseball, all your sports, as well as WWE, UFC, and has a great casino and a lot of unique ways to play too, not just your standard money lines and parlays and things like that. No gimmicks, just tons of fun ways to win big on my bookie. So that's code Leonard. Talkin Ball is also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. The code at boomchaga.com is Talkin Ball 25. Start feeling the difference today. And Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. Code there, Talkin Ball, hooksrub.com for great rubs, great flavor, and great swag from a number one Giants fan, Jared, born and bred in Houston, founder of a great company now supporting the podcast. And remember, if you live here in Bergen County, New Jersey, in the New York area, go to Sal Loretta for Men in Midland Park, New Jersey. The best, without a doubt, the best place for luxury menswear and tailoring that you can find. You'll see me in all of my arrival outfits when these games begin, and they will all be courtesy of Sal Loretta, keeping me right for game day arrivals. This has been Pat Leonard of the New York Daily News and the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard podcast. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as all of our loyal listeners were pointing out earlier, as Big Dash said, as who else gave us a reminder? The Realist. Please smash the like button while we are live. Please subscribe. Please support our sponsors, and please come back on Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, where we'll talk more. We'll share some more news. By the way, another roster cleanup. Ty Summers went on injured reserve today. Linebacker. They signed linebacker KJ Cloyd to take his place, as well as Jonathan Ward came in and they waived injured running back Rashawn Baker. So that was some roster machinations later in the day today to catch up. So just leaving you with that before we get out of here. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Love the chat. Love the community we've built and continue to grow here. See you next time on Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard. Take care.